Alright, YouTuber David Harry here. This is another preliminary test of mine. These tests are designed mostly just for me in the first instance and things that I need to check out and learn and whatnot. Although these things always go into a playlist on my channel, but sometimes I do put them in my main video list if they kind of like come across as something that might seem useful to others. So once again, what I'm doing in this one, oh by the way, there will be chapters because I'm going to change mic position here and stuff. So if I start rabbiting too much, which I'm bound to because that's what I do, especially in these videos, just use the chapter markers if you're interested in anything, you know, to do with this video. Anyway, so SM7b Ninja. Now the main reason why I'm running this particular test is, and I'm not going to get bogged down with it, I've sent 3 requests for support now to Atomos in the space of just over a week, and they're not responding to me. If they were responding to me and doing what they should do, you know, supporting their customers, then there's certain things I would not have to go to any lengths like testing because I would have got the answers, but I'm not getting the answers, so I've just got to plow on and waste more of my own time trying to work stuff out. Anyway, so what I'm doing here is using the Ninja in line level mode, which is going to be its least problematic. I've already shown that at least with my model, mic input is goosed. Right, anyway, so workflow, SM7b, that is plugged into a Fethead. Fethead is plugged into UMC202HD, which is acting as a preamplifier. That's being powered by a USB power supply, and then there's an output there on 1/4 inch going to the 3.5 on the Ninja. Ninja set to line level. Levels on the preamp stage here for the Behringer. I've got it so it's nice and healthy, nowhere near clipping, but at a level that I'm happy with. Final summing stage on the output for the preamplifier, which is going to ultimately give you the level on any line level input. Or even if this was going to be like, you know, a +4 or balance system, same thing. When you're doing a proper line run on something, it's whatever exits the summing bus which is going to dictate the signal being recorded, as opposed to something that might have some kind of preamp built into itself, like on a microphone input. Anyway, so as far as this is concerned, the level on this, I've got a clear max. Well, I've got a minimum of 10 dB of headroom at the top on the record level. It's probably going to be quite a ways under that, probably averaging like -15 for the peaks, but I've given it well enough headroom so the recording itself does not clip. If there's any issues going on here, it's not the mic, it's not that, it's that. However, I'm hoping, and probably I'm going to hazard the guess, this is going to be fine in line level, being driven with an external preamplifier. Okay, so right now what I'm doing, I'm talking basically across the microphone, very close to it. I'm going to go full on into the mic in a sec. But the reason why I'm this close to the 7B is because this probably is like the best position for the 7B. Something like a 7B and like a lot of dynamics especially, you've got to get them as close to your sound source as possible. What it is, the biggest differences between, say, a dynamic and a condenser. Condensers are a lot more sensitive on the front element, so that part of the microphone which initially is responding to like sound waves or sound pressure levels around it, it's a lot more sensitive, and that system is a lot more sensitive just because, well, one of the reasons is because of the mass of that front element, but also as well there's just a lot more like finesse for measurement inside the capacitor system, or to respond to those pressure levels and stuff like that. However, with the dynamic, you tend to find the whole thing to do with, like, you know, the diaphragm and the coil is going to be a lot heavier as far as its mass and weight are concerned. And then, of course, that's then got to drive itself across the magnets and stuff like that. So inherently, dynamics, you know, you need a lot more energy at the front end to kind of get that, like, you know, that mass moving and stuff, which is the mass between, like I say, the diaphragm and the coil and whatnot going through the magnet. Anyway, so yeah, right now I'm at an appropriate distance, so this should be good. Let me just test for plosives. So P, 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 plosive, plosive. P, 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 plosive, plosive. There's a chance we might have heard like wind striking the foam. That's not a plosive. The plosive is when it's clearly hitting the capsule and it's driving the capsule too hard, and then that'll lead it into distortion. I don't think that would have been happening even though I'm really close to it. Anyway, what I'm going to do now, rather than move the microphone, in fact, wait there, let me move the mic. Okay, so I've now moved the microphone, and what it is, I'm basically like the same type of distance from where my mouth is to where the capsule is, but where it was just then, I was slightly off on an angle. It wasn't so much that it was off axis. It wasn't like the microphone was that far away that my access to the microphone was going to be like a huge problem. But in that instance where it was just then, that's very specifically so that I don't have the microphone right in the front of the shot, but also it should help with plosives. However, right now the microphone is right in front of me. Now it is on a bit of an angle. It's about, I don't know, about 45 degrees. So it's there's going to be more chance of plosives here for sure. I'll push the plosives in a second. However, what it is, when you're directly in front of a microphone like this, all the energy that's exiting your mouth all goes into the direction of the capsule here. Whereas even if you're really close, but you're just coming off the side slightly, the energy is going past the microphone. Now, in that instance, when it's on a slight angle, what's happening? It's the radiated energy, so the collision of molecules, which is how sound waves kind of travel and stuff. It's that the microphones are relying mostly on. Whereas in this position, although it's the exact same thing, it's all still just molecules colliding and transferring, you know, kinetic energy, as it were. That energy is now being directed straight into the capsule. Now, I've already set my levels properly for this position here, and there won't be anything wrong with the levels. However, I could be now popping the capsule, I don't know. So, P, 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 plosive, plosive, P, 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 plosive. Now, in this position, I'm definitely going to be making a noise where my wind movement is going to be striking the foam at the very least, but that could definitely be going right into popping right now. Okay, so I think that'll probably do for this position. Now what I'm going to do is change to another position. I'll explain a bit now about the gain and stuff like that. Okay, so I've now swapped over to a slightly different position here. Now I've got the microphone a bit further away from me, although this is still a close mic position. And if this were, say, a condenser microphone, then this might be the better position for a condenser. Although I still like to get as close as possible to microphones, and I'll explain why in a second. Whereas though with a condenser, yeah, you could get away with pulling the condenser off a bit more than what you could a dynamic. Now, the reason why I get so close to the microphones, and it's not just me that does it, it's an industry standard practice. You are going to get, well, with certain microphones, you're going to get bass proximity for a start. And as much as what that can like overpower a sound, it can also be quite aesthetically pleasing to the ears and stuff like that. But another reason for getting close to a microphone is depending upon your recording like scenario or your recording location. If you're in like a live room or a dead room in a recording studio, then you can afford yourself a bit more distance from a microphone to help with things like plosives and the likes. However, when you're in a room like this, which is a bedroom, which has got a hard floor and like, you know, all the walls are hard. This thing behind me here, by the way, I've mentioned this before, this is not sound treatment. It's just to give me a solid color in the background. But in a bedroom, the further away a microphone is, then the more the room ambience it's going to pick up and stuff like that. And it's not like it doesn't pick up room ambience when it's closer, but because your mouth is like a lot closer than like, you know, the level of the room is, then it sounds like, you know, the level of the room's gotten lower, which is the effect of like the balance of your signal from your mouth to the reverberations coming back from the room. So obviously the closer you get to the mic, the better. However, and for whatever reasons, some people just don't want to be sitting right on top of a microphone and whatnot. Plus also right now, although the microphone is clearly in shot, you can kind of see me face more and stuff like that. Now, that's not me trying to say, ooh, look how beautiful I am, right? That's basically like it's a psychological thing. I think a lot of people, when they're watching someone talk, they like to clearly see their mouths moving. And quite often when you're chewing a microphone, you kind of lose that bit. And it can kind of, I think it can make people become a bit disengaged from what they're watching as well, because they do like to clearly see the face. There's a psychological thing with us as humans in the way, like, you know, when we look at people when we're talking, it's a lot more than listening. So we actually see facial expressions and stuff and things like that, and it all adds up to the experience of communication. So tactility within the communication. But right now, like we can see for the best part, there's me face and stuff. Whether it's handsome as I think it is, or maybe it isn't, it's there nonetheless, and you can see it. However, right now, what's happened, I've had to gain this up further in post, right? Because obviously the microphone's further away. But in doing so, there's going to be like a lot more like room ambience within the recording, and as deaf as this microphone is, it will definitely pick up the room ambience and stuff like that. Every microphone will do. So right now, this is not ideal for this room. However, if the room ambience isn't like taking over and stuff, then this is a good position. Maybe more so for me if the room ambience is kept low, only because I do have the ability to plosive microphone. So on that point, P, plosive, plosive, PPP, plosive, plosive. Now, of course, the microphone's slightly angled, whatever, blah, blah. Going to change that position in a minute for, like, you know, my final take and final position of the microphone. But nonetheless, like I've said, the level will have been raised up even more in post. There is an option to increase the level, obviously. I mean, the way you should do this, actually, if you're only going to record like a single point source at a single distance and stuff like that, you would get your optimum gain done at the preamplifier. Right now, I am not fooling with the preamp and bringing it louder, which is what I should do in this position, or ideally it's what I should do. It's not necessary, but it's ideal to do it. The reason why I'm not is because I've already got a level set here, which is perfect and stuff for me normal position. Now, the difference between gaining it in post or gaining it from there, because we're dealing with a digital medium as well as far as the actual storing of, like, you know, the audio is concerned, it's so unlikely that we are going to hear any difference between the gain from there or the gain in post for the difference where the microphone was to me to where it is now. So gaining it in post is perfectly fine for this type of thing and stuff. So yeah, that's all good. So there's nothing inherently wrong with this. It's just not the most ideal way, because you would account for the gain structure with the preamplifier for the given distance. Anyway, so that should do for that. Now what I'm going to do is just quickly change it and get it right in front of me. Okay, so similar position again, but this time the microphone's right in front of me, still angled up and stuff, because it's going to look crazy if I put the microphone right there in front of me, because it's definitely going to block the camera. However, right now the distance is still roughly thereabouts the same from my mouth to the capsule and stuff, but once again we've got this like bit of distance here, again competing with the room. However, because my energy levels are more focused directly into the direction of the microphone. Here's another thing as well. I've just touched the thing there, right, the boom, and I might have been a bit rough with it earlier in some of the earlier recordings. I don't know if I've been touching things or whether I deliberately was aware to keep my hands away. There's one brilliant thing about this microphone, and it's rejection to, like, you know, like touching stuff. And I don't mean touching yourself, but, you know, if you, like, you know, do stuff on the table and things and whatnot. Now, although you might think there isn't some kind of, like, you know, big kind of, like, you know, elasticated suspension system going on, I'll have to open this up actually and show what it looks like inside. The way that the actual capsule and the whole capsule element is suspended inside is really good. So it's like, you know, I mean, you're going to hear something, definitely, but these things are the worst because they've got springs on the outside, that twang and stuff. And then if I start doing all this kind of crap here, you're definitely going to hear it. But what you're going to hear less of is all that directly transmitted kind of, like, you know, well, it is sound. To be clear, when you do that on the table, there's going to be sound that comes up and goes straight to your ears through the collision of molecules through the air, which is normal for, like, how we would generally perceive sound. But also, when I do that, that energy is then knocking molecules within the wood or the fiberboard on the thing there, and then that then comes through the metal on the thing, and then down to this bit of metal here, and then finally onto the casing of the microphone. What it is, sound, whether it's directly through the air or whether it's coming through solid objects and stuff like that, or anything that's got a mass which is capable of, like, you know, transmitting the sound, it is all based on collisions of molecules. So one molecule hits another, blah, 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 like that. It's just a bang and knock-on effect. And then what happens is, as that collision goes further along, energy starts being kind of absorbed by each of the molecules. I mean, we're talking, like, you know, gazillions and gazillions of molecules here. But what happens is the energy starts being dissipated because each molecule requires, or each molecule absorbs a bit of the energy. So obviously the further away you get from the actual start of where the sound was, it gets quieter. That's whether it's through the air or through, you know, me banging on the table and then all those vibrations and molecules traveling through, finally getting to here. Doesn't matter which way round this happens. But nonetheless, anyway, don't even want to go sideways with these things because everyone already knows that stuff anyway. But nonetheless, that acoustics transmission through the solid objects, this mic's really good for it. Don't even know, oh yeah, I rabbited on about that because I just touched the mic. I mean, look at this. Yeah, check this. I'm going to keep quiet. This is all stuff I'll go into, obviously, when I do my full videos for this. But check this. You know, you're going to hear something because that's, you're hearing what's going on in the air there. But you don't get all that thumping with the mic that you would do when you badly handle, you know, other microphones. Now, don't get me wrong, you should not be doing that anyway. So if you're in a fixed position like this, you know, it's your fault if the microphone's picking stuff up because you're hissing stuff. Anyways, so right now, again, still the same distance as it was from the side. But this time, I'm kind of like directing energy more towards it, right? So that whole thing where, like, you know, the molecules have got more energy to dissipate ahead of them, that's exactly what's going on here. Now, you may not necessarily notice, like, a huge amount when I've had the mic slightly off to one side or slightly in front. However, in practice, there is a lot of difference as far as the amount of energy. I've just done it again. The amount of energy that's being transferred. Actually, this is the other problem as well with me doing these things with the mic and the shot. My hands are all over the place like a friggin' windmill when I do my videos. I have to be very careful when I'm using a mic like this in front of me. So I don't know, it's going to be difficult for me to, like, pick things up off the table because I'm like, oh, can't touch that and let me get that round. Oh, I've just done that. You know, didn't do that on purpose, by the way. That's the problem for someone like me who's erratic when I do these things, banging microphones. Anyways, have I done the pop test in this position yet? P, plosive, 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 P. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just wind this down because obviously these are basically tests for me, but I put them live and stuff. Some of me tests that I do actually are only like 2 or 3 minutes long. Others aren't. And again, I think I've made mention of this. Is because when I do the test, I'm saying certain things in the test to remind myself when I play back to do stuff. Okay, I'm just going to cut myself off there because I think I've definitely got enough dialogue here. What it is when I'm doing these things, I'm over-explaining things because I'm aware that they might go out. I should be doing these a lot shorter for myself. I don't care that these videos go long. And anyone who's familiar with me stuff, when they see me doing tests, they know they go long anyway. But I think what I need to do is just get this into post quickly so I can hear what's going on, because right now you've heard this and I haven't yet. So I'm going to dive off anyway. So as far as, like, you know, this microphone's concerned, do you know what? I thought I was going to hate it and I haven't. I actually love this microphone for me personally. I would say, again, do videos about this when, you know, when I've done all my testings and stuff like that. This microphone, I think, is massively overrated. It's massively overpriced. However, if you have a recording scenario where it works in that instance, it's kind of the best mic you can have, do you know what I mean? But those instances are definitely few and far between compared to, say, even just a moderately priced condenser. As if, for instance, a Rode NT1A, or if you can push to an NT1, they are like way more useful than something like this, because you can do a ton of stuff with them. With this, you can't. However, when you get like the right scenario where the mic works dead well. And that might be just works either one, because it's a condenser, sorry, that it's a dynamic, or maybe the second reason why it might work dead well is because there's things about this microphone which are like deficiencies. However, for me, when I'm getting it close enough to me, like, you know, to get that sound that I want, it helps with me sibilance, because I'm very sibilant. So there's a deficiency about this microphone which actually helps me with sibilance. And also there's certain annoyances within the frequency response or the frequency range of my voice. And the microphone seems to be a little bit deafer to that than others. So although they are technical deficiencies, if you're going to look at a microphone on a technical level, the response from the microphone actually really helps me, I think. So yeah, I really like it. Anyway, shut up, Dave, and get off. This was a preliminary test by me. I'm David Harry. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye now.